All right, Sean. Round 33. It's the weekend. Still just the two of us. Let's get into it. This is Red Card Radio. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whenever you're listening from. Thanks for tuning in. Red Card Radio is a weekly look at the Premier League. This week from two friends who support different clubs. That guy over there is Sean. He supports Tottenham. I am James. I support Arsenal. And this is, of course, the North London edition of Red Card Radio. And so, yeah, what we're doing tonight, we are looking at the weekend. What the Premier League has on offer for you starting tomorrow.
There's a couple of meaningful games, ball games, on this weekend.
Got an alliterative game. Got Leicester and Liverpool.
Yeah.
So we're certainly not starting there. Apparently we are, because I want to have a quick aside about Leicester. Apparently Leicester scored their first goal in like 13 hours of Premier League football last weekend. So
that's remarkable. What's that about? That's about 6 games or so?
Something like that. It was an incredible amount of time. So good job, Leicester. Keep it up. Beat Liverpool.
Yes.
But what we really want to focus on, there's 2 games in particular. We got Aston Villa hosting Newcastle and Fulham hosting Chelsea. Now, the reason why we're focusing and honing in on those 2 games specifically is because of the implications that they have towards Champions League qualification. So, Forest have Spurs on Monday, and we'll probably wrap up with that one. But first and foremost, just on paper, Villa versus Newcastle should be a banger. Both these teams, Villa need to get over the fact that they just got knocked out of the Champions League. They played a great game against PSG on Tuesday. Gave up a couple.
Made it a game.
Yeah, gave up 2 goals early, which felt like a death knell, right?
Yeah, and funny enough, like my comment on that was, my first thought was, "Oh, poor Villa," and then I thought that through, and I was like, I bet not a single fan of Villa is thinking, "Oh, poor Villa." They probably, right after the game, sure, but at the end of the season, they're going to look back and say, "We made a freaking quarterfinals of the Champions League. That was pretty cool."
Yeah, it's great.
I'm sure they're going to be pretty stoked about that.
But they're on the outside looking in at the moment right now for qualification for next season's Champions League. Newcastle, on the other hand, are on the inside trying to stay there. And so they both have had midweek games. And so this is kind of similar rest for both of these teams. So it's not like either one of them will be super, super fresh. And so I think
Newcastle have been doing what Tottenham cannot do this season, which is take advantage when teams around you in the table lose.
Mm-hmm.
So the past 2 weeks, Chelsea have stumbled here and there. Arsenal were probably out of reach, but Forest have, and Villa have had some poor results, and Newcastle just slapped 2 wins together, rolled it. And just picked up. They probably picked up 4 points in the past two match weeks on the people around them.
Interestingly, both of these. So at the time of recording, we're recording this before the Newcastle Palace game. But at the time of recording, both these teams have won their last 4 games in the Premier League. I assume Newcastle will beat Palace, and so Newcastle will be on a run of 5 straight wins, and Villa will be on a run of 4 straight wins. So both of these teams are in great league form coming into this match, and so I don't know at a baseline how to read this. Normally, I would say to myself, okay, post Europe for Unai Emery is always bad. Pre-Europe and post-Europe is usually really bad for Unai Emery. But at the same time, he's got nothing less to go for. He has to get into the Champions League because that's where he wants to be. That's where Villa want to be. They've tasted it. They got to a quarterfinal. They felt like they could have done more. And so they want to go back and prove it again. And so I think it would be so interesting if Villa won this game. It's just tremendously interesting from like a compression perspective, because if Villa kind of need to win it, I feel like I don't know who Villa have in the last 5 games. Maybe they have City, maybe they have Chelsea, maybe they have Forest. I don't know, but this is a direct opponent for that position, And so if they can get one over on them, it won't catch them, assuming Newcastle beat Palace, but it will
Yeah.
put them within striking distance, put them a point behind them. And so
Yeah.
puts a ton of pressure.
And 2 years ago, you talk to a Villa fan and tell them before the season, within the next 2 years, you'll be in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. They'd probably be ecstatic. And I say that to mean that, uh, 2-3 years ago when Unai arrived, Champions League was the goal. It
Yeah.
wasn't the standard. It wasn't a lost season if you didn't make it. It was a goal, and fans demanded it, and they did it. Now, Champions League's you don't want to take a step back. So since they did it last year, Champions League not quite the standard, but it's more expected than it was 2 years ago. So
Certainly.
their fans are going to be really hungry to stay in the Champions
Yeah.
League. In addition to the possible financial
Yeah.
struggles that they're going through, that they need it financially. But
I think it would be so interesting if somehow both Newcastle and Aston Villa, in my ideal world, it would be Liverpool, Arsenal, and then the other three would be Forest, Newcastle United, and Aston Villa in no particular order. I don't care how those three get in, but those are the three that I
that's
want.
the five.
That's the five that I want personally.
Yeah.
I think that would be.
And
I don't think that's going to happen. I think City and Chelsea will probably end up in. Maybe not Chelsea. I definitely think City will. But
it is kind of funny that we've had a natural and organic, other than Newcastle, if you want to make your claim there, a natural and organic re distribution of wealth in the Premier League the last couple of years, where Villa's getting that Champions League money, Newcastle's getting that Champions League money, West Ham are in Europa and making it far and picking up some cash, some prize cash for their bank, and United aren't, and they're in financial trouble. Tottenham are always in financial trouble. We're not actually; it's just self-imposed because Levy's a dork. But Chelsea have done a lot of spending lately. They haven't been making Champions League, so it's just a redisposition of teams that were there year after year, and they were counting on that money, and now they're not getting it. So that is interesting to me.
Chelsea supporters, and Brad would be the first to tell you that Chelsea posted a very healthy profit of 126 million before taxes this year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What hotels did they sell?
They didn't sell any hotels. They sold their women's team to themselves. Yeah.
To themselves. So they sold last year. They sold hotels to themselves,
and this year is the women's team. So.
Well, they got away with it last year, so the argument's going to be that you let me do it last year. So what's the difference? So they're probably going to get away with it.
I wonder if they're going to try to sell like Fulham to themselves next year and report that as profit, or Tottenham or something like that. They're gonna try and sell someone to themselves and count it as profit.
It's remarkable.
They're gonna sell Wembley to themselves. That's what they're gonna do. They're gonna just.
Do they own?
No, of course not. But they're going to figure out some way to sell something to themselves. So, well, speaking of Chelsea and Fulham,
they got a tough one.
This is a derby, a very very fierce derby, because these guys are, I think geographically, these are the two, for each one of them, they're the closest. They're closest physically to each other in London, and these clubs don't like each other. Craven Cottage is.
I don't know your experience, but Craven Cottage, when Tottenham go there, it's not, even when they're bad, it's not a fun trip. They always get up for, I don't know if they do that for you guys, but they get up for us. I know they get up for Chelsea because they're so close. And it's just a pain in the butt game.
It's one of those old school football grounds in England that's small, it's compact. The changing rooms are old, like it's not posh. It's not luxury at Craven Cottage. It's like, this is 1950. And these boys just got back from the war, and this is the only building that's still standing in London. And
the fans can touch you at Craven Cottage. Yes. If you get too close, they're close enough. They can grab you. I mean, they're probably going to get thrown out, but they can.
I'd love to go to Craven Cottage. I think it would be a great stadium to go to watch a football match.
I meant to look at their form. How have they been doing recently here?
I think not great. But I think, yeah, it's loss,
Okay,
win,
yeah,
loss, win, loss. So it's
yeah.
sinusoidal.
Well, on form they should win this. If that form
Hey, yeah,
continues.
I'm with it. And
Um,
what's weird about that is that we haven't been including Fulham or Bournemouth or Brighton in this Champions League conversation because they're just a little bit further away. They're currently all three of those teams are on 48 points. Villa are in 7th on 54. And so Fulham are definitely on the outside looking in for Europe, but they're not so far that they couldn't sneak into like the Conference League, right?
yeah,
And so they've got something to play for. They really want to beat Chelsea, but B they would love to get Europe. If Fulham get Europe, that's a great season for them. Europa League,
that's
Conference League, somehow they miracled their way into the Champions League. Like this would be a huge result for them for a season. So
yeah.
it's not like they don't have anything
They're
to
a
play
little
for.
far. They're a little far. They're six. They're six off of what's going to be Europe, correct? Or is
No,
eighth that spot?
I think it should be Conference League. I think Conference League should go to eighth. I think the Premier League's got it all backwards because we get two Europa League. One goes to the FA Cup winner, and one goes to fifth. It was what it says, but it should be sixth. So the top five should go to Champions League because of coefficient. Then sixth should be Europa League and the FA Cup. But if FA Cup wins is in Champions League already, then it would be sixth and seventh in the Europa League. So I think eighth. I think eighth is where Conference League is, unless something has changed. Unless something has changed,
Yeah,
and I could it could be different. Where I guess maybe the FA Cup winner also gets Europa League. So maybe FA Cup and EFL Cup get Europa League, and then the other one is a league position, perhaps. Or maybe there's always one league. It could be down to ninth. I don't know. There, it's weird because they've changed the format of qualification for the Champions League and the Europa League. There's just a bunch. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, there's a fight down there too because the Bournemouth. There's not a lot to split. Bournemouth, Fulham, Brighton.
Yeah, exactly.
They're tight.
And
Same
so,
amount of points, all three of them.
you
So
know, like that's what I'm saying. Like so, like Fulham have they have the derby aspect and the European qualification aspect of this game. Like there's they've got 6 games left. There's nothing that says they can't overcome a 5 point deficit in 6 games or something like that. Like so they could definitely claw their way into the Conference League. And so you got to go for it. You got to go out there. You got to give Chelsea hell. Chelsea aren't they seem like they're not in good spirits right now, especially when it comes to the league. They've had 2 draws in a row. Um, it just there seems to be this general funk around them right now, and so they might be ripe for the taking here.
yeah, yeah, they absolutely could. Um, and yeah, so that 6 points gets kind of erased if Fulham make up three this weekend, and
Exactly.
and swing it on them. So, um, yeah, but in a different part of London, there's going to be a much more interesting scrap.
Oh yeah.
A very poor Tottenham team has the Nottingham Forest uh, third place team coming into town, which is going to be tough.
Well, this could if somehow Spurs win this game and take 3 points off of Forest, that just blows Champions League qualification like
Everything
out
we
of the
just talked
water.
about.
It
Yeah,
just it gets crazy at that point. Now, do we think Spurs will beat Forest? Your guess is as good
that's a
as ours.
tall drink of water right there, buddy.
If you want to make a prediction in that game, you totally can. Jump in our Discord. It's in the description of this video or the podcast, and you can make picks for round 33. And if you're bold enough to pick Tottenham, like I always am for some reason, I keep losing points.
Me too.
Then then we'll let you know. Um, what's your gut feeling? What's your gut feeling?
Uh, I'm gut feeling is we're gonna pull this out 2-1. 2-1.
Well, let us know.
But they're gonna score that one in the first 5 minutes of the game and annoy me at no, this is I was gonna say annoy me at 8 o'clock in the morning like they always do. Because because they like to give in goals in the first 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
But this will be Monday, so it'll be afternoon.
It'll just ruin your afternoon.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true.
All right, let us know what you guys think in the comments. Get your picks into our Discord, all that good stuff. Watch some football this weekend. Hit us up on social media. Sean is at whiteheart_Sean. I am at James Tiffany. Collectively, we are at redcard_radio. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate you. And we hope you have a great weekend. We will be back next week, and we'll talk more football. Until then, have a good one.